02. If everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Really quick, just so that everybody is aware, things are going to be a little bit different tonight. Amanda's on the screen. She can hear us and see us. So we will be communicating more verbally with her with the questions. 1.03, adoption of the agenda. It is recommended that the agenda for March 9th, 2022, regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees be adopted as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Melissa?
Second.
May I have a second? Bill? All those in favor will vote, so I will call your names out. Amanda Roberts, yes or no?
Yes.
Angie Lehman?
Yes.
Melissa Johnson?
Yes.
Bill Pemberton?
Yes.
Holly Parks? Yes. Motion carries. 2, recognition. 2.01, Mishawaka's first Tech Tap Challenge Robotics Team presentation. Mrs. Passett.
Hi, good evening. I would like to first thank you for allowing us to present this evening. Steve Hodge and I started out this year without a real accurate outlook as to what our class in the first tech team would look like. Standing here over 6 months later, I can tell you that we learned a ton. For those of you that are not familiar, with First Robotics, their mission statement is as follows. The mission of FIRST is to inspire young people to be science and technology leaders and innovators by engaging them in exciting mentor-based programs that build science, engineering, and technology skills that inspire innovation and that will foster well-rounded life capabilities, including self-confidence, communication, and leadership. There are 3 levels of FIRST. The first Lego League, which is typically in the elementary level, the first Tech Challenge, middle school or early high school, and then the first robotics competition, which is the FRC, which is older in high school. And we will be back in April with the FRC team to present to you at that time. Today, we have members of our team here to tell you of their experiences, what they enjoyed, what they look forward to in the future. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to either Steve or I, as we will be continuing to teach and grow the program.
Yes, I want to reiterate thanks for having us tonight, because we've got some of the members of the 2 teams that I mentored. They're extraordinary students. Yes, they had to learn. There's a lot of freshmen in here, and freshmen, those have taught freshmen, they are freshmen. But I don't really want to go over the core values that Julie started, but what I want you to look at is the gracious professionalism and the competitions. What that is, and it's really smart of FIRST, because they've put these words instead of sportsmanship. So every player, every student has to understand what gracious professionalism is. So that, they have to get the dictionary out and things like that. But it's more than that. It's just not this list of words at first that we are all under this type of supervision, things like that. But it's more than that. It's helping these guys grow. I didn't get in amongst the robots as they were doing. You can fire it up if you want. My job, I thought, was to let them grow, become better people, overcome their nervousness, shyness, work as a team. And some of them. So I really want this to go year after year. That's really what my message is. I really love your support to keep this going. I have a plan how we want to do this. We will probably submit it sometime. We'll be talking to our boss, and we want to integrate FTC with FRC. That's the 2 robotic challenge challenges that we work with. But I wanted to introduce you, Alex. Alex is probably the elder statesman of the teams. He's a junior. He's incredibly intelligent. He has a hard time working in teams, but if you get to know him, though, he's a great character. He really is. Tegan's a young freshman. Again, he's overcome a lot of things during the last 4 or 5 months. And he's less shy. He's talking. Wouldn't say a word to me before, but now, Mr. Hodge, can I do this? Can I do that? And he even said, Mr. Hodge, can I go to the bathroom? Yeah. Young ladies, Mackenzie, Mac as she's called, another freshman, terrific young lady. Mechanic, she helped build this one with her buddy, who's not here. But again, these 2 girls were shy. I remember, Mac, when we went to Mishawaka for our first tournament, and the machines have to be inspected. Goes on a block of 18 by 18 by 18, that's where it has to fit. And then you have a checklist that goes off and things like that. I should have seen her eyes when it passed. But she was so thankful for that. So I think everybody was. And this young man is Miguel. He is, just like Alex, a programmer. These guys are special. I have no clue how to program. Never had to do it in my life and things like that, but I'll leave it to these guys. They're the experts. They're the ones that know what they're doing. They get this thing moving. But I want to say, the last thing I want to say before they get up and show you what they built is that it's incredible. It's an incredible experience for these guys. They go to the first tournament. They've never done it before, and they're nervous. So that's where I come in to try and talk them out and calm them down. But the friendliness of the other teams, the helpfulness of the other teams. Oh, we had a program issue. Let's go and find a team. The teams come over and helped. And this particular robot, the very first tournament, we had everything moving. It was really good. But I think that's the biggest kick they got, is that they found a lot of friends during this. It's been very rewarding experience, even for me, for Julie, but especially for the guys sitting here. So they're going to display their robot, and I really appreciate, again, having us. Yeah, just spin it around. Get up, man. Spin it around.
Why don't you go up and tell them the game? Tell them what you have to do. Okay. Can you do that?
So throughout our tournaments, we had to do a specific game. It changes every single year. This game for this year was Freight Frenzy. And the idea behind it is you have I think it's an 8 meter by 8 meter area, and you have a storage hub. Both teams have one. There's a red and blue team, and there's 2 alliances on both sides. And the goal is you have to pick up a cube with a random amount of weights in it, which can make picking it up kind of challenging if you want very specific measurements. And you have to put it in one of the 3 levels of, I forgot what it was called, but you just put it in a hub, a shipping hub. You also have to code a 30-second autonomous code, which means the robot runs on its own and does mostly every action already defined by itself for 30 seconds. And that was the game we had to play. We do not have a cube to show you how it picks stuff up, but as you see, it has a claw, and it has the ability of picking something up.
These guys can answer any questions.
That's pretty impressive. Do any of you have something you would like to talk about, or that you learned, or that how it's changed? your outlook on robotics?
So my future career is to be a robotics engineer. So this program has really helped me learn just different new engineering ways, how there's like all these different types of code, everything. Because this has really helped me also with communication, learning how to help other people out with their stuff as well. So in my experience, it's just been a pretty good year so far.
So my experience with this was probably it changed me in a way I could never forget. It was when I started the program, I was first off, I was like that quiet kid in the corner. I didn't do anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I just kind of did my own thing. But with first, it kind of brought the light back. Like when I was little, maybe when I was in first Lego League, it was so I was able to do a lot of things, but then like personal stuff happened, and I kind of recluded myself from the people, and first kind of let me bring back my outer self, and I was able to just be out there more.
So I was coming out of district this year, and I did not have a lot of friends. I didn't know anyone at the school, and I feel like joining robotics helped me meet a lot of people and form relationships. And also I just obviously learned a lot about how to build a robot, because I had never really been in anything like that at my old school. So I thought it was really cool, and it's always something that's interested me. Okay.
As mentioned, I am the only junior in this fully freshman class. I'd recommend never do that. But I've self-taught myself programming for about 5 years, and this gave me a use to actually put my knowledge of programming into a physical device. I have never really had an experience doing that. It was a very bumpy ride and a pretty bad programming language, but after all the struggles and every difficulty, once it started working, that's when we knew we had a chance. And we never got past qualifications, which can be multiple reasons, but we got very close to, I think, was it the Creative Award in qualifications? Yes, second place for the Creativity Award.
There you are. Well, if the four of you are any indication of the rest of the group, I mean, this seems like a pretty phenomenal group right here. And for the three freshmen, first of all, you're standing in front of a group of adults and you're talking and you're communicating and you're doing it very well. So I'm very impressed with that. If for no other reason that this is great, obviously you're building robots, but the social aspect of it all and the community part of it is going to create growth for you. As far as you, sir, as a junior with all freshmen, you're a leader, right? And they're looking to you as the leading position, and you are also very good at communicating, and you have great hair. So be the spokesman of the freshman group, but congratulations, very well done, and I can't wait to see what you guys bring to the next board meeting.
I would just add, thank you for coming. That was a wonderful presentation. Great reminder to all of us of the good work that's happening in our schools. And you're a great representation of our schools, your families, your teacher. We're so thankful to have you here tonight. So thank you for presenting to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you guys would like to go, you may. Thank you. All right, 2.02, recognition of school social workers. Mr. Levon, Mrs., I'm sorry, Murdy? Sorry, and Mrs. Christian. So sorry.
Good evening, President Parks, members of the board, and guests. Thank you for having us tonight. Social work. Social work is the helping profession. Each day, social workers help millions of people address personal and systemic barriers that prevent them from optimal living, and each year, National School Social Work is marked during the first full week of March. In Mishawaka, we are blessed with 7 licensed social workers and 1 social worker assistant who serve and support our students through academic, behavioral, emotional, and developmental challenges and triumphs. They are clinical experts, yet they foster the connection between home, community, and school, all in a day's work. As you will hear in just a few minutes from our 2 district social workers who have jumped in headfirst to help lead this work, the impact of this team reaches far and it reaches wide, yet it just scratches the surface of the ever-changing reality of our student needs. To that end, I certainly need to thank the SDM administration and you, the Board of Trustees, for your support. It's never been more evident that mental health matters. Tonight, I'm honored to recognize the following individuals and celebrate their many contributions to School City of Mishawaka: Lynn Kamieka Costa, Patel, Chris Ermetti, Beeger and District Social Worker, Rose Clark, Emmons, Emma Thurston, Helms, Twin Branch and District Social Worker, Yvonne Dayton, LaSalle, Michelle Hattery, Liberty, Gila Conance, John Young Middle School at Mishawaka High School, and Blake Ward, John Young Middle School at Mishawaka High School. Some of the team is here tonight, so we certainly want to allow them to stand now and be recognized. And then at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Chris Ermetti and Mrs. Emma Thurston, our district social workers, to share more about SCM's social work programming. Thank you.
Thank you. The last time I spoke to the School City Mishawaka board, it was following a hissing cockroach from Madagascar. And now I had to follow these kids who are like brilliant. And if you look at the continuum of professions and academics, you've got engineers and you've got social workers over here. So we come from a total different world, but yet embrace these kids, obviously. As we run into all types of left and right brain thinkers in our world. Collectively, we have 155 years of clinical service when we did the addition of how many years we've all been in this field. And if you look at our slide, we used caricatures because we firmly believe that in order for a child to have success in whatever it is, particularly in school, you need to meet them where they're at. So we need to be in touch with our child, our inner child, and that's a social working kind of little thing to say. But the reality is we do. We have to be able to understand them, what they're going through at that time, as ridiculous as it may sound to us as adults. If we can put ourselves back at that age when you're 6 or 7 years old and your parents just got divorced or you lost someone, it's hard to support those children without, kind of making it more of an everyday, that's kind of very rote thing. So we really connect with those kids individually, whatever it is their issue is. I said with 155 years collectively, that means we've got that many stories that parents would be mortified if they knew what we knew about their families, good and bad. So anyhow, we're very privileged to do this work, particularly with School City Mishawaka, and how they've been kind of really taking the ball. And as Corey mentioned, that mental health matters. It's evident by we keep doing more things and adding more things to our social work services. So anyhow, we thought we would start off with a little humor in introducing ourselves. So one of the programs I'm going to just briefly touch on, I should say one of the issues we all face, no matter what schools you're in, is food, lack of food, we call it food insecurity. And as a result, both the North, is it South Bend Food? I'm trying to think what it's called. What she call it? It doesn't matter. Anyhow, nonetheless, all of our schools receive these weekly food packs. They come from various companies. I believe some of the schools are paid for by the Salvation Army. So we also are excited to talk about. We identify the kids who are in need of nutritional assistance, and they sign up and they get bags of food every Friday to take home, have weekend meals. I don't know how many we have all together. I think it says here, by the end of the school year, we'll deliver 12,492 bags of food to schools at risk for students and food insecurity. In addition, we're adding a new program, or they've added United Way is funding a new program that is called, in partnership with DoorDash. So DoorDash will be taking monthly food boxes to whatever families we've identified and signed up. More than likely, it'll be the families that we're already giving food to on a weekly basis. So we're just now getting into that. I'm not sure how many families we have signed up yet. Do we know?
But it starts Friday.
So it starts Friday. So once a month, DoorDash will drop off a box of food to whatever families we've signed up. So food insecurity is huge. And we see that more now than ever. Hence, this program is something that we do year after year, and I'm sure we'll continue to branch out as United Way provides the funding for it. Say something. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, one of the many school shootings triggered social workers, all of us, to say, we don't do enough to educate our kids about what to do if the situation were to happen. So we sought to research, look for programs around the country to see what they're doing, how are they doing this with kids. It's a sensitive issue, anti-violence in schools as well as suicide. And we came upon Say Something, which was stemmed from the Sandy Hook school shootings. And they developed a foundation, the parents did, with all the contributions that came in after the horrific shooting that happened there. So together with many of the nation's experts about violence and school violence, they put together the Say Something program, and we're very proud to present it every year to the 6th graders. It's real stuff we talk about. They see real videos of aftermath, and we talk scenarios. We talk to them about how to say something, how to have the courage to do it, how to do it, who to do it. We practice it, and we talked about social media and how important they are. And then I would say there's 70 of us in the school, and there's 500 of you. That's how many more eyes than we have. And so we really try to ingrain that in them, and that it's not about being a narc or telling on someone. It's about maybe saving someone. And the reality is school shootings continue to rise. So those statistics are probably underreporting what we're dealing with now. So anyway, that's one of the things we've been doing for, I think, 5 years. Next slide. That's me. Okay.
All right, and this one is specifically for John Young and the high school. Gayla has been an awesome leader with this, really spearheading this program. It's our Students Offering Strength. It's a suicide prevention program, really focusing on the strength and resilience factors that we can focus on. So I got to sit in on one of the trainings. It was so awesome. Some of our staff is being trained, but it's really the peers that are standing up and noticing, like, when can I see that one of my friends is struggling, and how can I connect them to a trusted adult in school so that they can access the help. It was just really cool to see, I think, especially because in that training, you saw a member from each category of school. So there were athletes, there were really quiet kids, there were some kids that were extremely gifted, there was some of your jokesters, but it really pulls from every little clique that you may have in school so that you are really representative of the entire student body. So no matter where you're at, if you're struggling, you can kind of identify with one person in that group. So that's really awesome work that the high school and junior high has been doing. Michelle Hattery is from Liberty, and she wanted to focus on our attendance work. So we know that it's important that kids come to school and attendance matters, but there's hurdles that come in the way of getting to school. So as social workers, we monitor student attendance, specifically focusing on unexcused absences. When students meet certain thresholds, we have different policies and procedures in place, and that might go to connecting to our Casey Center, making different hotline calls for educational neglect, but really supporting the family, finding those barriers, and then helping get children to school as much as possible. Kind of on that same route, social workers are also very known for the things that you may think of like crisis management. So whether it's screening for suicide risk, reporting child abuse and neglect, we're really the pinpoint people in the schools that teachers can come to when they're concerned about a student. We have really great programming with our technology department to look at those things because we know that students are searching. Social workers are one of the first people to get an alert if a student searches for anything to do with self-harm, and then we're able to follow up on that right away. She also really wanted to focus in on what social workers have been doing with our SABRS data. So it's part of our assessment now that happens 3 times a year, where students fill out a screener on how they feel about themselves, and then teachers also fill that out. So social workers have really been the champions of looking at that data and kind of targeting the groups who are self-reporting that they're struggling with something about school, whether it's externalizing behavior, internalizing behavior, just not feeling like they fit in. We can look at that data, we can work with teachers, and then work together to come up with a support plan for that. we've seen a lot of growth from our beginning of the year data to our middle of the year data. Kids are moving from high risk to medium to low risk, so we're seeing the growth through that. I focused kind of along those lines. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Twin Branch and Hums got a social worker this year, and it's awesome. Kids are saying, like, this is so cool that there's somebody at this school that we can talk to now. Except one student did say, well, am I only supposed to have feelings on Mondays and Tuesdays? Because that's when you're here. But we're working on it. And so I've been going into different classrooms using different curriculums. I know a lot of our schools use the zones of regulations to help kids identify their feelings and learn tools of when they can self-regulate. We also use our Leader in Me curriculum. So in kindergarten at Hums, we're doing the early learners curriculum. You can see in that bottom picture, they're all picking an emotion face that they want to do. They were not actually angry. They picked anger as the face. But then as you're doing that tier 1 intervention with all students, you can kind of see some of the kids who may need a different type of support. So our social workers are pulling small groups of kids, working on targeted areas, or meeting with kids one-on-one and really looking at the things that both the Sabres say, but then also just the stories that they come to school with. And Yvonne also has had this I got to go over to LaSalle when Hums flooded one day, and I became a program assistant at LaSalle because I couldn't go to Hums. And I got to see this room. It's really cool. Through grant money, she has a Minds in Motion room for students to use daily as needed. And there's just a lot of different sensory tools in there. So it's getting students' brains ready to learn. So we know that it's hard for kids to sit in a desk all day, every day. So she's providing a place for kids to go and just get that sensory integration in so that they can go back to the classroom and be ready to learn. It's quite challenging in there though too.
So more of what we do, we create and publish a monthly newsletter called Social Work Matters. Most of it this year is now it's focusing on the 7 habits of happy kids. We hope to not only teach those things at school, but the parents also to kind of maybe rehearse and go over the things they've learned about 7 habits. So eventually we change the culture in our schools and our classrooms. That is one of the things, it's one of the many ways we're trying to take the 7 habits to the homes. We also have, some of our schools have mentors, retired teachers, retired professionals, and we coordinate those folks, as well as we consult with teaching staff on behavior modifications plans and provide clinical expertise on mental health matters. It seems this is not a surprise to any of you since COVID. Been doing a lot more of that, and a lot more of talking with families about it and trying to make them see or help them see the reality of their child situation. That it's a different world that since the last 2 years than when before COVID it was different, and now they're dealing with other things that they hadn't been used to. Isolation, number one. And then providing, introduce Catch My Breath and In-Depth, an alternative suspension program for vaping to middle school and high school students. We're I'm not sure if they've started using it yet or not, but this is the curriculum that they're using. Yes, they have, okay. And so that was this year as an alternative, hopefully, to suspension. That is another evidence-based program that we found that would be, I think, easily to implement, and hopefully kids will get something from it. But most importantly, what we do is we provide hugs, support, and candy to our students. And what we haven't talked about, candy particularly, what we haven't talked about is staff when they need it. I think I'm sure any one of us here will tell you that we are the therapist to a lot of our staff members, and we understand and take that as a privilege because their job is so difficult that you could not pay me enough to be a teacher, and we respect them and we are there for them, to not only work in partnership with them, but also to support them when they're going through some rough times. COVID, particularly, again, taking quite a toll on our staff, not just teachers, but also our aides and assistants, and oftentimes you'll find them during their break in a social work office or talking to a social worker, eating candy or whatever. But we do certainly, our thumb is hopefully on that pulse. And working with our principals, we understand who's maybe needing a little extra something that maybe they're not ready to hear from a principal because it might sound like it's criticism versus support. So oftentimes it's the social worker, and it's just kind of a natural fit. So that's another key piece of what we do that I'm sure goes, we don't talk about much because our students are our main focus, but definitely the staff has been we work closely with them, and we appreciate the privilege to do that. So thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, and there's no doubt that you have a laundry list of things that you guys are trying to juggle on each school with all of our students, and then in this day and age, it comes with a lot more than just a student. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to hearing the good work that you're continuing to do with our students. So thank you very much. Thank you. 3 comments and questions from the floor. 3.01, representation of Mishawaka Parent Group. 3.02, representatives of school employees. 3, representatives of Mishawaka Education Foundation. Ms. Carapani.
Hi there, I'm back. That's how I feel anyway. It's my turn again, so here I am. Hey, I just want to tell you about 2 quick things. Jane wanted me to mention that the Major Saver cards are going to start going on sale. And I think a lot of the schools probably sent home the letters today and the envelopes and everything today. So that starts, but the prizes start next week. Let's clarify the most important thing when you're a teacher, and that would be it. And the other thing I want to talk about is what's happening to our building over at Emmons. 3 years ago, Janine Reynolds wrote a grant to ISTA. Every year they pick one school in the whole entire state, and it's picked for a makeover. Well, we won 3 years ago. Our school was chosen, and due to COVID, it didn't happen 3 years ago, it didn't happen 2 years ago, but finally, it's happening. It's the second weekend of spring break. It's April 9th. We would love to have anyone come, donate their time, donate your money, donate whatever you want. We would love to have you. We're doing all kinds of things. We're putting a sensory walk in. We're painting bathrooms, putting quotes up in bathrooms. We're going to give our lounge a total makeover. It has probably been there since 1905. I don't even know how old Emmons is, but I guarantee most everything's original. We're taking a look at that. We're taking a look at the office, just all kinds of things. The front of the building, thanks to Mike, a lot of things are being done outside out there. So there's just going to be all kinds of projects, all kinds of things going on. Come, sign up. You were given your little flyer. There's a Q code, whatever those are. I only use them when I'm at a restaurant where they don't have a menu. That's all I know about them. So that's the only thing I can tell you. Look, I'm delivering the message. Call my bosses. They have most of the information. I'm just sharing. So that's all. I don't know if you have any questions or not, but come if you want. If not, open that pocketbook. That's what I say. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you. 3.04, general public. No one signed up to speak. Moving on to 4, consent agenda. 4.01, approval of the minutes of the February 23rd, 2022 board meeting. It is recommended that the minutes of February 23rd, 2022 board meeting be approved as presented. 4.02, approval of bill warrants and payroll. It is recommended that the board approve payments of bill warrants and payroll in the amount of $3,089,482.38 from the appropriate funds. 4.03, approval of the extended field trip. It is recommended that the board approve the extended field trips as listed and documented. 4.04, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Melissa? Do I have a second?
Second.
No? All those in favor say aye. I'll call your names. Amanda Roberts?
Yes.
Angie Lehman?
Yes.
Melissa Johnson?
Yes.
Bill Pemberton?
Yes.
Holly Parks? Yes. It has been approved. Motion passes. Thank you. Vision initiatives. 5.01, planning for a preferred future of educational excellence. Mr. Barker.
Thank you, President Parks. Just want to give you a brief update on our work regarding the public meetings now that we've been having with our Community Collaborating Committee. They had their first meeting last Thursday night. We had a good meeting. It was a meeting really to get to know each other, for the committee members to get to know each other. We provided an overview of the work that they will be doing, and along with that, with a timeline. In that meeting, it was determined that we needed to invite Big Idea to join all of those meetings, and we've reached out to them, and they have agreed to join us starting in their next meeting. And we actually have 2 meetings with that group this month, since the first one was an organizational meeting. So they will be coming back to meet with us again on March 24th. And then our next meeting of the High Priority Facility Needs Work Group meeting is actually next Tuesday on March 15th. And in that meeting, they'll be getting copies of the building utilization studies that were done by Avonmarsh, Wigand, and MCOR, along with cost estimates for all of that work prioritized into 3 different need levels. So we have a meeting tomorrow to finalize that with those individual companies. So that's an update on the work of those 2 committees.
Great, thank you. 6, reports and discussion items. 6.01, legislative update. Mrs. Lehman has a voice that you can't hear. So Mr. Barker is going to do her part in his.
I want to thank Mrs. Lehman. She's been serving as your legislative liaison during the last 2 years, and has really learned a great deal, I think, about the legislative process, and has been providing great reports. So tonight I'm going to read her report and then maybe throw a few comments in at the end. The 2022 short session of the Indiana General Assembly concluded early this morning. Important to the Indiana School Boards Association and K-12 public education are the many bills that did not pass. The list of dead bills includes Senate Bill 17, Senate Bill 184, House Bill 1072, House Bill 1134, and House Bill 1182 and 1107, among others. A couple of bills that Mrs. Lehman shared with you in the past are awaiting the governor's signature. The first one is House Bill 1130, which is in regards to open meetings. This bill passed out of the Senate on 3rd reading with an amendment. The amended bill removed the language that would have required a patron to be given at least 3 minutes to speak on all topics. Now the school board has the authority to set a time limit for receiving public comment on a topic and still maintain the language that allows the board to take reasonable steps to maintain order in a meeting, including removal of any person who is willfully disruptive at the meeting. Senate Bill 82 is the FAFSA bill. This bill requires school corporations to provide seniors and their parents a written notice on FAFSA prepared by the Commission on Higher Education, and will require the Commission on Higher Education to develop an online form for parents of unemancipated student to complete. The Commission must provide information to each school for the school to determine which students have completed the FAFSA and the FAFSA affirmation form. Mrs. Lehman hopes she's presented legislative information to you in an understandable manner. There have been many bills that are introduced and the language is challenging to decipher at times, but with the help of the ISBA Legislative Network, she's been able to share those bills with you that are of importance to us as a board and our school community. I would just add a few comments. The session did end shortly after midnight last night. Some of the legislative lobbyists that work for different educational groups really didn't get out of the State House until about 3 a.m. They have no plans to come back and do any kind of substantive legislative work in this year. They will come back for technical corrections, and they'll have an organizational meeting in November. If the Supreme Court does something with abortion, they possibly will come back. I think they've left an out for them to come back in this session, depending upon what the Supreme Court might or might not do. As Mrs. Lehman pointed out, many of the bills that we were most concerned about died. 1134 was the CRT or transparency bill. All of that language died. House Bill 1072, which was the referendum sharing bill with charter schools, died. The House Bill 1107, that died. That was the special education due process bill. Senate Bill 17, which would have removed the educational defense regarding the distribution of harmful material to minors. And then no bills move forward regarding the political affiliation being required of board members to run for office. Some bills that passed were Senate Bill 83, which was the bill regarding public comment at board meetings. That really doesn't impact us much. As you know, you accept public comment already. And then House Bill 1093 was really a bill that kind of came about late in terms of the part of it that I'm going to talk to you about, and that is they have limited the number of e-learning days that we can have in a 180-day school year to 3 days. As you know, our school calendar has 2 planned e-learning days in it for next year already on the election days. So this means if this bill is signed, these bills are now going to the governor for signature. If these bills are signed, we would only be able to have 1 e-learning day next year due to inclement weather, which would put us back to having good old-fashioned
Does that
snow days.
also affect children who may have medical issues and are required to spend more time e-learning and not in the classroom?
Well, I think honestly, the person who wrote this bill, who advocated for that amendment to go in, is a parent of a special education student, and he was concerned, from my understanding, that e-learning days, and at least in his perspective where he was, were not serving special education students well.
Really?
So I think the thought behind that was we should limit. Now,
There are other medical challenges besides that.
True.
I mean, physical challenges.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. They're using the term synchronous learning. So when we were first dealing with COVID and we put in our remote learning plan, as you know, our teachers were actually engaged with students and seeing them and providing instruction. If we did something like that, that would not count as one of those 3 e-learning days. But as you also know, as we do e-learning now, as most every other school district in the state does, when we have an inclement weather day, when we do e-learning, our teachers post assignments to Canvas. Students and parents can go there and get those assignments, and then they have access to their teachers through email during the day. The difference with what they want, if we are not going to count those, is for our teachers to actually be engaged with students virtually, teaching them, and they would have to do so at least 50% of the day for it not to count as one of those 3 e-learning days. And again, this came about really late. This was starting to get talked about late last week because our focus was on all these other bills. And then, so this one did pass, and it will impact all schools, and probably like for us this year, I think we've had 5 e-learning days with inclement weather, which is more than we've had, you know, in prior years. But it's just hard to predict what the weather would be. But it also, you know, impacts northern school districts more than it does southern school districts with the weather and things like that. So I was disappointed that that was put in because it does kind of restrict what we can do.
Reaction to the pandemic?
It very likely is an overreaction to the pandemic, and you know, legislation usually drives out of some personal reason from somewhere, and maybe that is legitimate there. I don't know, but I would say it's probably an overreaction. Yes, we were. You know, so much attention by the education associations were spent on this legislative session, and it was supposed to be a short session, and it was really frustrating that so many people had to advocate against bills that, in the view of educators, was going to be harmful to public education. And next session, you know, we'll be coming back into a budget year, which will be a very important year. One of the things I would say that House Bill 1002 passed, and that's not necessarily an education bill, but it is a bill that's going to reduce the state income tax over the next several years, and that will impact the amount of money the state generates. Well, if the state generates less money, then there's less money available to support the budget. Now, they have a healthy surplus right now, but I was still surprised that this happened in a non-budget year because it will reduce the revenue the state receives now over the next coming years. That's it.
So what I heard there is, people, you're responsible for who we put there. Vote, vote, vote. vote education all the time. Second of all, I think that in the last 8 years, and I don't know if Bill feels the same way, but in the last 8 years, we've not had this much communication about the legislative and what's going on in the House, right? And so I feel very informed this session by Angie and by Mr. Barker. So I appreciate what they're doing. We have received some verbiage back from our teachers that they feel supported by Angie and Mr. Barker for going and batting for them at the House. So thank you both very much. I appreciate it. 6.02, January financial statements and monthly comparison. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, President Parks and members of the board. This being only through the month of January, I don't have anything in particular that I wanted to point out. I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have. I have updated the reports to show our 2022 budget order and updated it to compare, again, 2022 back to 2021. But again, I don't have anything real important or pressing to share for the month of January, so if there are no questions, again.
Are there any questions, comments? Thank you. 7, Human Resources, 7.1, Personnel Report, Mr. Keldro.
Thank you, President Parks. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the Personnel Report dated March 9th, 2022 as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second it. All those in favor will say aye. I will call your names. Amanda Roberts.
Yes.
Angie Lehman.
Yes.
Melissa Johnson.
Yes.
Bill Pemberton.
Yes.
Holly Parks. Yes. It has been approved and carries. Thank you. 7.02, SDM organizational charts. Mr. Barker, Mr. Keldro.
Thank you, President Parks and members of the board. The last time our organizational charts were updated was April of 2017, and much has changed in School City of Mishawaka in regards to our leadership structure that advances the vision and missions of School City. The design of the SCM leadership organization will continue to have a major impact on executing the Mishawaka way going forward. So tonight we want to present to you our current organizational structure to show how workflow, accountability, and authority work together. Our next step will be to update job descriptions for each of these positions. It's important to note that leadership structures are intended to be regularly updated as living documents, and that we intend to continue to do that as we work to create a culture of excellence. So tonight I'm going to go through that first sheet that you have. It's I think you have copies at your desk, and we're also displaying it on the screen. And then Mr. Calderoni will take you through the following pages of that. But you can see this organization certainly starts with our Board of School Trustees. We're thankful for your leadership as you oversee all of these structures. And then serving under you would be, first of all, me as the superintendent of schools. And we're not going to go through all of this, but you can see this structure looks a little bit different in that Dr. Hickel is listed separately there. And for that reason, she is the only other person in our organization besides me to have a superintendent's license. And that's different than what this looked like in 2017, because at that time you had, I believe, 4 people maybe with superintendent licenses in that structure that you had at that time. Next, you see then the rest of our administrative cabinet. So that the rest of that cabinet reports to me. It also reports to Dr. Hickel. And what we'd like to do then is take you through each of the departments represented by those that you see in the cabinet there. And in those departments you have within the curriculum and instruction department that you have over to the far left in that, I'm not sure, lime green color maybe. You see Matt Modlin as the Director of Technology, Dr. Stockstill as the Director of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Laban for Director of School Services and Assessment. Then next, we have Mrs. Michaelis for Director of Exceptional Learners. And then we have a new department that we haven't shown separately, and that part of this is because of a focus that we're putting onto school safety. And we've assigned Corey Laban to be our Director of School Safety, so he now officially has the longest business card in the district. Then next you'll see Mr. Newman for Chief Financial Officer and Director of Business Services. And then Mr. Calderoni, Executive Director of Human Resources and Student Services. And then also really a new department that's been organized under Jen Smith's leadership as Director of Communications and Project Management. So this time I'd ask Mr. Calderoni to take you through each of those other departments following.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. If you take a look at the next page, our Curriculum and Instruction Department, which has introduced the structures of our leadership team here at School City, that obviously falls under Sarah Heckel as our leader. But this department works very close together and covers a lot of areas. As you can see, you have on the left of the structure, you have our technology department, which is led by Matt Modlin, and then you move into the middle, Dr. Stocksdale, who works closely with Sarah, as well as Wade Books and our instructional coaches, which are new to us this year at School City, and I think have made a positive addition. And then as you move down to Mr. Laban, our Director of School Services and Assessments, who also plays a major role within our curriculum department. This year we also have district social workers, and you met two of them. You met the two this evening, Chris Armetti and Emma Thurston, and I know they're doing wonderful jobs. Moving on to the Exceptional Learners Department, which, as was mentioned earlier, Barb Michaelis is our Director of Exceptional Learners. 2 years ago, we hired Exceptional Learner Supervisors, two of them, Kristen Hargis and Heather O'Laughlin, who spend a lot of time at the elementary and middle school and high school levels, splitting those things up. Obviously, we have our school psychologists who are valued in our corporation. And within this department, we also include our preschool program. That's why you see Janice White and Stephanie Jurek down there at the bottom. And then, of course, our young adult services, which works out of Patel, Patel Center downtown Mishawaka on Main Street, is a resource and for a lot of our students that have gone through the high school years already. As Mr. Barker mentioned earlier, new is our organizational chart for school safety department, which I think is very, very important. And obviously that's one of Corey's responsibilities, or Mr. Laban's responsibilities. As director of school safety, I mean, you're responsible for a lot of important things. And being a building leader for many years, that was always something that we valued, okay? But sometimes, if you don't have someone assigned to something like this, okay, some things go to the wayside. And I know how Corey operates. That won't happen. He's doing an excellent job already, and I look forward to seeing some of the positive things that come from that. The good thing about this department is that Corey can't know everything going on at the elementary or high school or middle school level, so we brought on board to this organizational chart Bob O'Hara, who's going to be a liaison through our elementary schools, and Mr. Dave Troyer is going to be our liaison at the secondary level. And then, of course, our resource officers, and then the work that Ken Kalebeck will continue to work closely with Corey on these things. Moving up next is our business and operations department. Obviously, Mr. Newman is in charge of those things, works closely with Mike Faulkner as our director of operations with our operations department. As you can see how that goes. We do have new additions because food service falls under obviously our business operations, and Linda Cupp and both Lori are both new to us this year, and that's kind of simple. But Alex, I know, meets often with this group individually and so forth. So that kind of takes care of that department. The next department is HR department. I call it the smallest department, but department that makes a difference. Some days. Darlene and Jenny obviously play a major role in our department. I mean, a major role. I could sit up here all night and talk about those two, but this year, including in the organizational chart, one of the changes that was made was our school nurses at all our elementaries and middle school and high school. We know the valuable role they played for many years, especially the last couple, 2-3 years through the pandemic. And then last but not least, very important department and new leader. Obviously, Jen Smith has done a wonderful job with this department, creating a real family atmosphere among the people that are within that department. And we're real happy where that department's going and looking forward to continued success out of that department. She plays a major role in so many different things. And we have to relay information to families or to news channels. Just a mirage of things that she has her hands in when it comes to those things. So we just kind of wanted to update you on some of the new things in some of these departments. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I think everything's pretty self-explanatory. Jen Smith, I would like to say thanks to her for putting all this together. I know she put a lot of time and worked with a lot of department heads in putting this together. And one of the new additions to her department, obviously, is Matt Rendo down there at the bottom. We still have to get a picture of him, but as Mr. Barker mentioned at the beginning, as we move forward, we'll continue to update this on a more regular basis. I think that's important. If you're going to have something like this, okay, make sure our community and our people that work in our corporation know what department people are in, where they need to go to for certain answers. So we'll make sure we're transparent and informative to our school community and the people that work in our schools. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we'll update this. We will add the job descriptions to it. I do want to thank Mrs. Smith for her work. It's tough to put together how an organization actually has a workflow and what that authority looks like. And I think this captures it really well. I like the added pictures other than my own that are here. And we'll have to work, obviously, to keep that updated. But it's something we've been working on. That first page, that cabinet that you see, we meet about every 2 weeks or so here in the central office. And this is something that we've been working on for the last couple months and trying to get to you. So at this time, recommend the Board of School Trustees approve the organizational chart as presented.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Move.
I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. I'll call your name. Amanda Roberts.
Aye.
Angie Lehman.
Hi.
Melissa Johnson.
Aye.
Bill Pemberton.
Yes.
Holly Parks. Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. 8, curriculum and instruction and technology, nothing. 9, business and operations. 9.01, request for rebid cabling service. Mr. Maybe.
Hi, good evening. School City of Mishawaka requested bids for cabling services in support of the E-rate network switches and wireless access points. These are the necessary cables behind the access points and the new physical installation of the new access points project. Only one bid was received at $265,360, which is higher than expected industry norms. So we're requesting permission to republicize and bid.
Perfect. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Amanda Roberts.
Aye.
Angie Lehman.
Yes.
Melissa Johnson.
Yes.
Bill Pemberton.
Yes.
Holly Parks. Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. 9.02, approval of the agreement with Qubit and E-rate Category 2 network switches and Wi-Fi access points. Mr. Maybe.
Thank you. School City of Mishawaka requested bids for updating our networking switches and wireless access points. Qubit is the recommended bid, totaling $1,089,321.73. 2 other bids were received, but they did not follow and adhere to the bid specifications. So we are recommending Qubit. Now, the second line item is because this is an E-rate Category 2 project, we could get a 5-year budget limit spending. As you notice in the table graph here, as a totaling up for the total cost, with the first part of our funding limit from E-rate, we'll get an 80% reimbursement from that, and you'll see the line item for our total cost. Add in the other items of that entire first bid of the $1 million. The other $216,245 is our full cost that we have to assume for a total project of $390,860. That is for the actual networking equipment, the access points, and the switches and the programming services for the updating of switches and wireless access points. And the previous one for the cabling services goes along with that hand in hand.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Melissa, is there a second? Bill Pemberton. All those in favor will say aye. Amanda Roberts.
Aye.
Angie Lehman.
Hi.
Melissa Johnson.
Aye.
Bill Pemberton.
Yes.
Holly Parks, yes. Motion carries. Thank you. 10, policy updates, nothing. 11, communications. 11.01, public announcements. Next meeting of the Board of School Trustees will be on March 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. at the Administration Center. If there's nothing else to come in front of the board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
It's not a shit.